in this week's message from the angels, they are doing something they almost never do, which is that they gave us a timeline for the Earth Rift. So shocking, it's there in the message, and you guys will have to hear it for yourselves and see how you interpret it. And they talk about what is going on with the Earth right now, with all these earthquakes and volcanoes happening, and they're telling us very specifically what is going on with the Earth, what is her experience, how is it affecting us, and where is it taking us. So yeah, really, really timely message. So I am so glad you are here to hear it. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so glad you are here. And those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. I do that by going into a deep meditative state or trance. And from there, I raise my awareness as high as I can go. I stretch a little higher. I connect at the angelic realm, and then messages, information, and healing come through. And I share it here with you guys on YouTube. So my format is I will share with you guys a brief summary of the message. Then I will share the original channeling, which I do on Thursday nights. I did it last night. And then I will go into a breakdown of the message afterwards, where we talk through it paragraph by paragraph, which I find really, really helps to give you a much deeper understanding of the message. But understand that you may take whatever piece of that suits you best. So, all right. To summarize the message, I'm calling it "What is Happening with the Earth Right Now," and I'm so excited for this topic right now because there are crazy things going on with the Earth right now. So there's all kinds of, like, we had that big earthquake in that peninsula off of Russia, that then it did create some tidal waves that came all the way across, and everybody was really excited about, like, there was like live cams, in California coastline, and it was like boom. It was like barely visible, but I think everybody was in a lot of anticipation. But it was a pretty major, Kamchatka, I think is what it's called. But everybody was, but that in addition to tons of other rumblings. So there's if you are into watching these kinds of things, there are reports of like really unusual activity in the earth all over the place. So including here in the Northwest where I live, but Mount Rainier has all kinds of crazy rumblings. And there's a undersea volcano off the coast of Oregon that's going like that has like some really unseen before activity. It's all over the place. There's lots of stuff going on. And so lots of people are wondering if you guys watch anyone, like if you guys watch Stefan Burns or anyone like that. He's kind of saying, hey, like, right, there's indications that we could be having something. So here the angels talk about it, and they talk about what it means and what's actually going on. But what's cool is they're talking about it from the earth herself, like what is happening with the earth. And shock of all shocks, they give us a timeline. So for the Earth Rift, which is like mind blowing. So anyways, yeah, they never do timelines, as you guys know. So, but they say it in very angel speak, but it's in there. So we will get into it. But as you know, that the angels always say, no matter what's going on in the world, regardless of whatever rattling is happening anywhere, we are always meant to continue engaging in our lives, to live our life, to the energy we invest in our lives now is what will carry forward. And so all the more reason to come to my retreat in October. How is that for a segue? So I have my Expand Your Heart retreat where I'll be channeling the Mother of Creation coming up in October. This is our second year doing it. It is the most fun that I have all year long. So it is incredible how the angels and the Mother of Creation have told us that we all contain the light, but we cannot get the light outside of us unless we are with others. That is through the connection with another that our light comes out. And so imagine what can happen when you are in a room with a bunch of aligned, connected people. That light just becomes more and more and more powerful over the course of the weekend. And it is just the most uplifting, fun experience. And with the Mother of Creation coming through, we're doing healing. It's intoxicating. It is absolutely so much fun. So it's coming up. It is, what is it? I think in the third week of October. There's details on my website, anntucker.com. And I would love for you to join us. So I will include, if you guys haven't seen it, we have a behind the scenes video, which can give you an idea of what the retreat is like. We're having it at the same venue. It's here in Seattle, Washington. And you can watch the video to get a better understanding of like what it's like and what, and what happens and how it's structured. I love a great retreat. So there's great food. The venue's beautiful. All of that is check the box, because to me, it matters. Those kind of things you want to feel like you're being taken care of. So those things are all there for you. So, okay. So, and I'm so glad. Yes, Donna, manifest the retreat. We want to see you there. Dawn says last year's retreat was so amazing. I'm going back. Woohoo! Dawn, it's going to be so great to have you there. So much fun. Yes, please come join us. So, all right. So, shall we dig into the message, you guys? Are you ready? Go ahead and take a breath. And here we begin.
Beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blessings. We are within. We begin speaking now. The underlying combustion of this earth ruptures. She herself is opening. There is a dynamism to these quakes and rumblings. There are orchestrations far below we do not master, for they evolve in the moment as she comes and goes within her own emotionality. The earth herself shall pray unto her own soul and reach for that higher state of self-knowing that ruptures all that came before. She has within her an understanding of what is evolving from within her. She is in dialogue with that aspect of herself that wishes to rise, that wishes to come forward. She has unannounced within her own behavior a fortification for her soul, a way of undulating into readiness, into what has not yet transpired before. The rumblings you are perceiving, the shaking of this earth, is a gesture of her own healing. It is a method by which she surfaces that which elevates within non-belonging to subsume prior feelings of unworthiness. She is holding within her heart, not shallow, very deep, the sensation of having been isolated and alone. And in that fragrance of becoming, there must be an internal dialogue happening that questions what is now and questions what came before, and allows her soul to reach forward into something new and unknown, into the very chasm which we've been speaking of, into this settled space of the nothing, where no time has been spoken before. She shall undergo this escapism, this sensation of leaving something behind. It shall come forward through her now, as if she is settling herself within the ruptures and the chasms which are elevating to the surface. She shall rise into a new understanding of her own soul. Loneliness as a specter, as anger has shown itself, where she has felt herself idly placed within a universal construct of solitude, she shall come into the known concern of self as loved by many. She shall rise into the catapulted state of one who reaches for her own memory and comes into contact with that which is universal. Her broadening of her perspective is a broadening of your own. It is the elevation of your own timekeeping from now till the very beyond nature of who you are becoming. It shall instill in your heart a new perspective, a new sensation of, I will allow myself to reach farther than I've known. a sensation of my life is worth more than I've let be allowed to myself. My own sensations reverberate within a cosmic construct that is shared by everyone. These realizations come upon you slowly and then all at once within the great shaking, within the elevation of her own perfection of realization as she comes to terms with the shapes and the constructs of a new time within which her old world has no meaning. She shall come to this space within the time frame of this yearly anniversary. She shall come to this period of self within this exacting amplitude and periodic fluctuation. It shall not be as will come within the period of illumination, that which shall happen beyond this time and shall bring within it an even higher octave of self-expression. This elevation begins that offering. It is an openness. It is a rapturous delight with what is unseen, unknown, unfelt before. It is the willingness to stretch beyond what has been, which opens the door to the flash becoming. This orchestration of earthly amplitude is helpful in bringing forward all who live within the envelope of this existence, all who are part of this earth realm. It shall release the shade upon the unknown. It shall open a doorway of possibility within which new things can become. It is a release point. It is a fracture of what has held you in place, locked down into old ways of knowing. It is an opening for her, the earth herself, and for yourselves to open to the new, to new ways of perceiving yourselves and each other. Within the construct of not knowing, new things become possible. And within that framework of being opened, the flash of light may help you ascend. Within the shape of a world that is closed to itself, light cannot permeate. There must be a crack, there must be a ripple within which new things can become. There must be a separating to allow division to take place. Therefore, have in your own hearts the understanding that what is forthcoming within the earth, her crust, within her own individuation, that you shall benefit in the form of your own perspective, how you may shift into the unknown with more readiness, how you may let go of what has been. The forms of solace have held you blankly, subsuming your soul within constructs of belonging into a world that does not elevate but retracts the state of beingness to which you are aspiring. As these constructs quake and unfold, new openings are generated, and the tissues of the earth break apart to reveal something never seen before. Your world shall be rocked metaphysically as well as contextually in the greatness of the tides of discovery that are coming. You shall find yourselves rippling within the frameworks that are unfolding one after another as old ways of perceiving drop away. Your own world shall be expansive as these constructs of riddles and rhymes that have locked you into old constructions become petrified, broken, damaged. Your own thought processes become questionable. You come into a greater context of self-acknowledgement wherein you see what has been habitual thinking, what has tied you into limitation. And these then start the process of opening. We say that the bridge is begun, the soul that you are has come to this moment wherein all can be shaken free. And we ask for you to be at rest, be at peace with what shall be a period of uncertainty, to embrace the unknown, to ask the soul, how may you reach further into what is becoming? How might you question what has been? Where are the lengths of your own aptitude to believe in what is your new future? We say blessings, thank you, and goodbye.
So, yes, phenomenal message. Yes, and a time frame, right? I mean, that is for the Earth Rift, is my understanding. My read of this is that they're talking about the Earth Rift within the next year, like the next 12 months, sometime in the next 12 months. But they also say earlier that that they don't govern the quakes that are happening right now, that it's really in accordance with like the earth when she's just like we govern when we are ready to release something. When we decide to heal, we heal, right? And it's the same thing with the earth. When she decides to heal, she heals. So when the earth rift comes, but I think it's because they can see all time is now, that from their perspective, they see all realities. They can look at it and say, and the way they phrased it was so specific. It was like within the, like it's almost like every year has a frequency, like a frequency to a time period. And so they're saying within the frequency of this time period of the next year, then it will happen within that frequency. So yeah. So, oh my gosh, right? Oh my gosh, you guys. Yeah. Wow. I know, me too. That is what I'm thinking too. Yeah, he says that Josh says that gave me crazy chills and goosebumps at the end. Me too. He just, wow, I thought they were saying within 2025. Yeah, I mean, that is up for debate. I read it as 12 months from now, but they didn't actually clarify. Was it 12 months from now or was it 2025? I thought it was the next 12 months. I don't know. I could be wrong because they didn't actually clarify that. They just said the next year. So yeah, I don't know, a year from now. And I was thinking years because, yeah, so anyways, I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, incredible, and amazing for what it means for us. So in this message, they're saying that, yes, that oh, and I love that passage where they're saying that this has to come first. And it makes sense because they said the earth has to crack so that the light can get in. That part blew my mind, and it's so beautiful and it's so perfect. I think there's a song, by, I can't remember who it is. Some people put it as their like, I seen it at the bottom of people's signature. It's a beautiful quote about like the cracks are where the light gets in, but talking about like our imperfections are sometimes our greatest blessings. But here it is basically saying, yeah, that this has to happen, that a world closed to itself. So, which makes perfect sense that if I think about myself back in the time frame when my heart was closed, when I was asleep, before my awakening, I was still me, I was still a nice person. I was still like a same person, but I had all my wounds and I was so locked in my own defensiveness and hiding from what I didn't want to see that I was blind to a lot of what was going on around me. There's a lot of stuff I did not want to see. And so that blindness would have prevented the light from coming in. So it's almost like what they're saying here is you got to crack open a little bit. The earth has to crack open a little bit. So we have to go through this rupture it's almost like at the beginning, most of you have gone through your big spiritual awakening. And some of you were lucky enough to be born into it. Some people never went to sleep, which is like, so lucky. And for those of you who did, some of you who were born with parents who like understood or had near death experiences that couldn't, whatever. But many of us went through a period of sleep and then had something come and wake us up. And sometimes that could be divorce, it could be disease, it could be whatever major shakeup. It's like something that pulls the rug out from underneath your life, that cracks it open. So then your all of your old patterns and the things that you carefully construct to keep you bound up, they crack, and that lets the light in. And so this, to me, it really makes me think of that like with the whole earth, but in a big way, in a way that incorporates or includes as many people as possible, right? Which is so exciting, so exciting. So, but yeah, so I love that part of it. So, so let's go ahead and break it down paragraph by paragraph. Let's go through it. So I feel like this one was like beautifully clear, but it always helps to go through. And there is some places in here that I think it will help for us to focus on and to pull apart. So they say, first paragraph here, they say, blessings we are within. We begin speaking now. The underlying combustion of this earth ruptures. She is opening to herself, or she herself is opening. So combustion is the rapid combination of, and that's the angel word of the day, combustion. Even though we hear it all the time, it helps to pull it apart. The rapid combination of a substance with oxygen, providing heat and light. So I love that. It also means violent agitation. So it's both meanings. So a violent agitation, the combustion, so violent agitation would be the earthquakes and all that other kind of stuff. But I love that it's the combination of something with oxygen, that oxygen, it gets back to that idea of the breath and the sacredness of the breath, that the inhale and the exhale. Think about when you are in shock, how you hold your breath. And when the air comes in, right, how it brings in the light. So this whole thing is about producing the light, creating the light, bringing in more light, all of it. So it's combustion, the combustion of old wounds to create the light. I love it. All right, the earth herself is opening. There is a dynamism to these quakes and rumblings. There are orchestrations far below we do not master, for they evolve in the moment as she comes and goes within her own emotionality. So the angels here are saying like the quakes, everything that's going on, like all of the like random, it's here, it's there, it's all over the place. They're saying it's all very dynamic and in response to the earth, that she's the one in charge of her own healing. And they're saying the angels are not in control of this. Nobody else is in control of this, just her, that she gets to choose. And so it's going to be like where she kind of shakes over here and she shakes over there. It's like she's doing her thing. And so they're saying it's just going to kind of play out the way it's going to play out. And it's going to come and go. It's going to evolve in the moment. Then they go on to say, and this is really interesting. They're starting to talk about the earth state of mind and like, where is she at state of heart? Like, where is she right now? And they're saying the earth herself shall pray unto her own soul and reach for that higher state of self-knowing that ruptures all that came before. She has within her an understanding of what is evolving from within her. She is in dialogue with that aspect of herself that wishes to rise, that wishes to come forward. So this is really interesting because it says where she is in her state. Where is she in her process of awakening? That they're saying she's awake, that she's awakened, that basically she is in dialogue with her soul and she is wanting to reach to something higher. And so she's not asleep anymore. So this is a really big deal. This is as big a deal as it is for a human. There really is that moment where someone turns the lights on. And I define that as the moment when someone understands that their reality comes from inside of them, that the reality is a reflection of their internal state, when they move out of victim consciousness and into the understanding that the world is a reflection of them and that they themselves are turning inward is the answer. And so to me, that's like you flip a switch and it changes everything from that point forward. Every conversation you have changes when you understand that you're creating your reality. And it pulls you out of that victimhood, out of powerlessness, and it puts you into the position to start to see and learn about yourself, right? And she's there. She's past that. So that to me is very exciting. To me, it's a really important statement because it's giving us there's a before and there is an after. And she has now made it over the hump into the awakened state, which means the ball is rolling. To me, so I think that's a really important thing not to just glide over because it is such a defining moment. She is in dialogue with that aspect of herself that wishes to rise, right? That wishes to come forward. She has, unannounced within her own behavior, a fortification for her soul
a way of undulating into readiness into what has not yet transpired before. So there is a pathway for her. She has a unannounced in her behavior, so it hasn't come like she's not doing it yet, but she has a way to fortify, to strengthen her soul, a way of undulating into readiness, right? She has a way through. So it's like in the same way that we have been born with another incarnation inside of us, basically not incarnation, but a higher octave of our soul inside of us. We have a pathway that's designed for us to move into our higher state of being. So does she, but it's not evidenced in her behavior yet. So they're giving us in this paragraph a really clear understanding of where she is in her process, that she's awakened, but she is not yet going through the actual rising. She's awakened, but not yet rising. So I think that's, to me, it's really, really helpful to understand. She's really right where we are as a collective. All right, next paragraph. The rumblings you are perceiving, the shaking of this earth, is a gesture of her own healing. It is a method by which she surfaces that which elevates within non-belonging, to subsume prior feelings of unworthiness. So, and subsume is an angel word of the day as well, which means to include or absorb or encompass. So, which I love that as a way of describing what happens to the feelings of unworthiness. They become subsumed, they become included, absorbed, or encompassed. And I really like that because as a healer, as a person who has been focused on healing as a healer and on myself for a long time now, I have a deep love of the process of healing. Because I think so often we get into the perspective that we want to get away from, we want to push away, we want to eject, we want to clear our old wounds. When in reality, if you think about every one of your old wounds as a part of yourself, as that younger self, as you when you were 2 years old, and if all we're trying to do is get that 2-year-old out, just throw them out, I don't want those feelings. That's what happened to the 2-year-old. Like, that's what happened in the beginning. That's why the 2-year-old is sad, Like, what we want to do is take that 2-year-old and give it a hug and bring it in and say, you belong and I love you and I don't care what happened to you. I love you. Like, no matter what happened to you, I care. But no matter what happened to you, I love you through everything. I love you through everything that happened or everything you felt, right? And so this idea that the goal of healing is not to eject, but it is to incorporate, to draw all parts of ourselves back to ourselves so that we are whole. That's the idea. And here, that's the idea that for the earth as well, that it is that she is in the process of a healing. It's a gesture of own healing and a method by which she surfaces that which elevates within non-belonging. So the feeling she has when she was feeling, and it surfaces. So it's coming up for healing to subsume prior feelings of unworthiness, or to include, absorb, encompass, right? To heal all of it. She is holding within her heart, not shallow, very deep, the sensation of having been isolated and alone. So this is something they told us before, that this is like the major thing, the major wound that the earth is trying to heal right now, which is the feeling of having been isolated and alone, which is very interesting. So she has not been in communication or connection with the rest of the universe, just like us. And that is the wound. So she feels isolated, and that's the wound she's trying to heal. And maybe even doesn't realize that she's not alone. All right, next paragraph. And in that fragrance of becoming, there must be an internal dialogue happening that questions what is now and questions what came before, and allows her soul to reach forward into something new and unknown, into the very chasm which we've been speaking of, into the unsettled space of the nothing, where no time has been spoken before. So they're really talking about that this is a process, that the healing journey is one of reflection, right? Reflection, incorporation, understanding. That's the goal. It's the whole point. That's all. We don't come here. The suffering is not the point. The point is the learning, the reflection, the learning that comes from it. Who are we in those difficult moments? And where we really see that, you guys, is, and I know you guys relate to this, where we really see that is where we can turn around and embrace someone else who's going through the same thing. Like where we can turn around and hold the energy of like, it's gonna be okay. Because look at you, you're going through it. I went through it. I'm okay. You're gonna be okay. That's that self-knowing of who you become as the light. And it can be a really, when those opportunities come, when we're able or have the privilege really of being there for someone in that way, it can be just incredibly meaningful. I feel like some of those moments are destined, planned, parts of our lives.
soul contracts, you know? So, so they say that having that moment to question, right, giving her, the earth, and us time to go through this, to question what came before, to allow her soul to reach for something new, right, and then the angels say, into the very chasm of what we've been speaking of, into the settled space of nothing. So this is the idea of letting go of old patterns, even patterns that we don't like. They say sometimes, like, the devil is sometimes people choose that over the one that they don't. That it is the fear of the unknown is super, super real, and that's sometimes it's really hard for people to let go of old ways of being, because and I think the fear of unknown is even stronger when you're not coming from a place of strength. If you're already battled down, if you're already exhausted and you're wrung out, if your self-worth is already in the tank, it's if you're like a rubber band, you know what I mean? How much capacity do you have for something totally unknown? How much faith in yourself do you have when your life is not going the way you want it to? So I try to think about that when I think about people who are trying to battle the unknown, who are still really, really deep in their stuff, and how hard it is, how hard that can be. And that it just takes that much more courage and strength, which is why I think that's why we have so many light workers here, is because they need help. They really do. So we're trying to get to lean into that space of the unknown, which is a space we create our new reality from. Next paragraph. She shall undergo this escapism, this sensation of leaving something behind. It shall come forward through her now as if she is settling herself within the ruptures and the chasms which are elevating to the surface. She shall rise into a new understanding of her own soul. Loneliness as a specter, as anger, has shown itself where she has felt herself idly placed within a universal construct of solitude. She shall come into the known concern of self as loved by many. So the visual I got for this is like gas bubbles being released. That she shall undergo escapism as the sensation of leaving something behind. It shall come forward through her now as if settling herself within the ruptures and chasms which are elevating to the surface. So this is idea of these like parts where there had been gas trapped in ruptures or chasms beneath the surface, places that where things were incongruous with her sense of herself. The fact that she's alone, the fact that there's nobody with her, was she abandoned? How did she get here? Are like these ruptures below the surface, and then as she starts to come to terms with them, or starts to open up to them. Those open and those gas bubbles can float to the surface to be released. Right? That was kind of the visual that I got. Coming into terms with things. So and then here the chasms. I looked at chasms just because I felt in that moment that there might be another that might be useful to look at that word more deeply. So as she's settling herself within the ruptures and the chasms, and I might be pronouncing chasms, I think it's chasms, which are elevating to the surface. So chasms are deep fissures, but they are also, a chasm can also mean the profound differences between things. So an opening, think about a chasm coming into play when, or like what causes it is, for example, for the earth, her sense of herself, her knowing herself as someone who is lovable, and yet feeling isolated and alone with no one to love, right? And so that is a difference. Like wait a minute, my reality is not reflecting who I think I am inside, and that creates a chasm. It creates a dissonance where things are not like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So that was how I was reading that. She shall rise into a new understanding of her own soul. Loneliness as a specter, as anger, has shown itself where she felt herself idly placed within a universal construct of solitude. So in other words, she got angry, she got sad when she discovered when she more lonely she felt, right? And she shall come into the known concern of self as loved by many. So that will be the as she stretches into her new way of being, she will move from loneliness to connected, which is really, really cool. And connected, I'm sure, with the universe. All right, next paragraph. She shall rise into the catapulted state of one who reaches for her own memory and comes into contact with that which is universal. Her broadening of her perspective is a broadening of your own. So this is, and I love that they use the word catapult because it brings us back into that. I talk about it all the time, that idea that going into our healing, why is it that we go through trauma? Why is it that some of you have had really, really hard experiences? We all have, but I know that there are some people that signed up for a harder journey. And those of you very, very ambitious souls who signed up for a more difficulty than the rest, it is really, I look at that as an ambitious soul, someone who was really wanting to stretch their capacity for love in this life. And I see it as a catapult that you pull yourself into the depths, into the darkness of the hardest feelings you can feel. And from that space, you create this well of capacity. Right? And that capacity, the feelings, those difficult feelings, stretch you out so that you have more capacity to fill with love. So it's like the hollowing out. Think about it as like if you're going to hollow out a piece of wood, you're going to do it with heat. You're going to put something in there that's going to like burn out the inside to make a bowl or whatever it is. That you're creating capacity inside of yourself, stretching yourself out for more love. So that catapult pulling you way, 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 way back into the depth and releasing you. And what happens, you spring way forward into a higher perspective or higher octave of yourself. And they say that her broadening of her perspective is a broadening of your own. So these earth changes that are happening, these cracks, these fissures, these openings that are letting in the light affect her, and they will also affect us. Super cool. It is the elevation of your own timekeeping from now to the beyond nature of who you are becoming. So this is the idea, the elevation of your own timekeeping. So it's like we're on a different track or picked up the pace. So they're saying from now until this shift in consciousness, it's like because of these changes that are happening, it's like we are on a different time that we've picked up the pace. Things are moving faster is what they're saying here. Very cool. We want that. Next paragraph. It shall instill in your heart a new perspective, a new sensation of I will allow myself to reach farther than I've known. A sensation of my life is worth more than I've let be allowed to myself. My own sensations reverberate within a cosmic construct that is shared by everyone. So this is really, how is it going to change us? It's this dawning awareness is how it feels to me as I read that paragraph. I think of it as like this sort of like this slow dawning awareness, right? That your life is worth more, right? More than you've allowed yourself, that you have more capacity to love, more capacity to be, and that they're in starting to have glimpses of unity and how we're all connected. Next paragraph. These realizations come upon you slowly and then all at once. Super interesting, right? That to me is like, ooh, okay, now I want to see what that's like. So it's like they come upon us slowly. We're in that phase now where things are coming upon us slowly, where we have glimmers, right? They talked about the glimmers in our last week's message. They talked about that they expand the glimmers when we see a moment where we feel like connected to the unity consciousness, where we feel like a momentary hint of like, oh my gosh, my life is worth more than I thought it was, or I am worth more, I am more valuable than I thought I was, whatever it is. Those glimmers, those moments where we feel into the new higher state of being. We want to notice them and expand them and put attention and focus on them and make them become bigger. And so here they're saying that those realizations are coming upon us slowly, but then they say, and then all at once within the great shaking. So the big earth rift, the great shaking is the big earth rift they've been telling us about. And it's, it's a big earth rift that comes up from, I believe it's in the middle of the ocean. And I've shared all the messages. If you're not up to date on everything they've talked about that, it's in this book. So all of those old messages about the earth rift and everything, you can, if you want the quick summary of everything, all the messages are in this book, What's Coming Next, which is on Amazon. So it's a compilation of all those messages that we got from the angels about sort of the events of the shift. So that's a quick, or you could go back into YouTube and watch the videos. But that is something, if you didn't know it, if you want to do the quickie way, all of the messages in the book have a QR code. So it gives you the text of the message, a summary of the message, and then you can use the QR code to go directly to the relevant YouTube video. So you don't have to scroll and scroll and scroll. So it was really meant to be a guide to the events that we're going through. So that is your cheat sheet if you want it to go back and to understand all. If you're like, what flash or what rate rift, what all that. If you're wondering what is she talking about, it's in there. So okay, so where was I? Um, Here is it. Realization. Okay, within the great shaking. So the great shaking and the earth rift is defined as something it will be heard around the whole world. I wondered, like when Tonga happened and we heard it like halfway around the world, I wondered, oh, is that it? But it wasn't. It's all the way around the world it will be heard. It will be a really big one. And so it'll come upon us. So in other words, when that happens, when the earth rift happens, there will be a marked shift or change in our ability to access this higher state of consciousness. It'll be a cracking open of some of the things that are keeping us locked in, which will then let in. It's like a prelude to the flash of light. It will help us to let in the light, more of us to let in the light. Within the elevation of her own, the earth's own perfection and realization as she comes to terms with the shapes and the constructs of a new time within her old world, within which her old world has no meaning. So it's really a true letting go of old forms and limitations. Beautiful. All right, and then here we go with the timing paragraph. All right, so you guys see what you think of this. She says, or they say, she shall come to this space within the time frame of this yearly anniversary. Yearly anniversary. So I saw that as an anniversary of today. Like that's how I read that. I know I was like, is it 2025? Are they talking about that? Or are they talking about in the time frame of this yearly anniversary, like saying it today within a year of today? That was kind of how I saw it, as a year of today. She shall come to this period of self within this exacting amplitude and periodic fluctuation. That is such an angelic way of saying time frame. Because everything for them is frequency. Like everything is vibration and frequency. So apparently this period of time of, I think, the next 12 months has a specific signature in its frequency. That it is, and probably because of the fact that they're saying that we have now reached this new state of being, right, where we're more open. But that would be my guess. But the fact that they're saying here that it is within this exacting amplitude. So amplitude is like how high in measuring. It's a measurement of a wave, right? Amplitude, like is it like, you know, how big is the wave of this time period? Amplitude and periodic fluctuation. Yeah. So I think that is angel speak for time frame. And it shall not, excuse me, it shall not be as will come within the period of illumination, that which shall happen beyond this time and shall bring with it an even higher octave of self-expression. So they're saying they're not talking about the flash of light, is what they're saying. It shall not be as will come within the period of illumination. The period of illumination is the flash of light. So it's going to be before that. They're saying this happens before the flash of light. That which shall happen beyond this time, right? And shall bring with it an even higher expression. So this is like as close as they've ever given us in terms of time frame, which is like, oh my gosh. So we have this next, I think, 12-month period, this anniversary, unless there's some other anniversary that I'm not, but they said here yearly. So that's like a 12-month period, yearly anniversary, and then the flash of light comes after that. And so, yeah, so I'm guessing they did say yearly, but they also say anniversary, either or. So I would just say, to be on the safe side, I'd say the next 12 months. So, and in saying that, like, I know we're thinking, oh my gosh, like that could be a really devastating thing. Like the earth rift is not going to be a gentle experience. And we've talked about it at length. And I think the key for us in terms of navigating that is to, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, is this idea that we need to continue to invest in our lives, is continue to make your plans. If you want to travel. If you want to start a business, start a family, please start your family, like whatever. Invest the energy where your joy calls you to go. Follow your joy. And what the angels have said, that anything that is meant to continue on will continue on. And then anything that is not in harmony with what's coming may fall away. But what will continue is your energy. So the example I always give is that, say, for example, you were investing in your kid's future by putting money into a college fund, and then something happens in the economy and that college fund dwindles. Well, don't worry about the fund itself, or if the fund goes away, if colleges go away. Like, what if the college they wanted to go to is like falls into the chasm or something? Like it is, I'm joking, but my point is don't worry. The point is you are the creator. Your energy, you have been putting your energy towards that child's future. And that's what, well, it'll manifest in some other way. And so that is how we need to think, is we need to continue to engage in life, to live freely, as if life is going to continue on. Because the fact is, the one thing we can count on always is change. The idea that we've been living in this incredibly stable, where you can count on things, has been illusion anyways, right? Things always happen that shake you up, that push you from this direction to that direction. We just have the illusion of consistency and stability. So the one thing to count on is your own energy, is your vibration, is that you are the source of the change. So continue to invest in your lives. Don't stop and wait for these things to happen. And I think that I just want to say that as we're talking about a time frame, because I think the tendency would be like, oh my gosh, I got you. What do I have to do before the flash of light, before it comes? I think the basics, you want to do the basics that they've always talked about. We want to be like, follow the Red Cross guidelines that are everyone should have anyways, that are to help you with preparedness. Make sure you have a way to clean your water. They say that all the time. There may be the possibility of waterborne diseases in the future. That could happen. I've had many messages about that. You want to have a way to clean your water, and you want to have a back stock of food, more than if you're that person who just kind of has a few things in the cupboard. And even if you don't have a lot of bucks, big bag of beans, big ones, big bag of rice, bag of beans, and a bag of beans. Dried beans will last forever. And so you just stick it in a corner, and if you should ever need it, and think about what needing it might mean that people are crazy out there, and there's huge lines at the grocery store, and you don't want to deal with it. And so you're okay. You've got a few things at home, and you'll be all right. You just want to stay out of the chaos. You don't want to be in the midst of it. And maybe and I just say that if you choose not to, right? But to have the choice. So do that. So in terms of for you, if it feels aligned, to have a way to clean your water, backstock of food, not crazy. Don't go crazy. Don't put a ton of energy there. Energy engaged in life and what brings you joy. And then having small bills, 5s, 10s, 1s. The idea that if they cannot process your credit card, or Apple Pay turns off because there's some issue, you want to be able to buy gas or buy ice for your cooler or whatever you need. So and you have to actually go into the bank to get those low denominations of bills. So once you have it, don't spend it. that is my problem. I dipped into mine. I have to go back to the bank and get some more because I keep using it to pay this person back or whatever. Anyways, but though, if you do those 3 things, you'll be way ahead, way ahead. And there's lots more you can do if you choose. But the idea is, don't do anything that puts you into the spiral of fear. Don't do anything that makes you feel. That is what's most important, is your energy, is how you feel. And so do a few things and think of it just as being just in the same ways like you have to pay your taxes, you have to clean your house, you have to do basic things. You take care of yourself, you take care of your family, and you do those things because you're a responsible adult. And so this is another part of that, of being, just think of it that way. Think of it as like, this is just basics. This is something everybody's got. You got to clean the air filters on your HVAC system. And you got to have a bag of rice and beans. It's like that. So, okay. So moving on from that. So timing, amazing. Next paragraph. This elevation begins that offering. So this elevation, the earth rift begins that offering, begins the flash of light. The earth rift leads to the flash of light. They say it is an openness. It is a rapturous delight with what is unseen, unknown, unfelt before. It is the willingness to stretch beyond what has been, which opens the door to the flash becoming. So just let those words sink in, because it is a rapturous delight with what is unseen, unknown, unfelt before. So expanding the glimmers, right? Looking for what is new, what you haven't seen before. And that is what's opening the door to let more light come in. So it's really breaking free of our sense of our belief that we're limited. Next paragraph. This orchestration of earthly amplitude is helpful in bringing forward all who live. I underline that. Bringing forward all who live within the envelope of this existence, all who are part of this earth realm. It shall release the shade upon the unknown. It shall open a doorway of possibility within which new things can become. It is a release point. It is a fracture of what has held you in place, locked down into old ways of knowing. So I think this is also an incredibly hopeful paragraph, because I think it's saying to us that for those of you who have loved ones who you're just wondering, like, are they going to wake up? Like, what's going to happen to the people who are not on their path? This event is helpful. It's helpful in bringing forward all who live.
So I think there's this fracture, this release, this opening is going to be a turning point, I think, for more and more people to start to release old forms of limitation. So there's a greater chance that more people will come along for this shift in consciousness. So that is, I think, really a beautiful, hopeful paragraph. All right, next paragraph. It is an opening for her, the earth herself, and for yourselves to open to the new and to new ways of perceiving yourselves and each other. So it's really about our perception. It's the key here. We're trying to change our perception, opening up to what is new, right? Releasing limitation and limiting beliefs. Our perception of ourselves and each other. Within the construct of not knowing, new things become possible. And within that framework of being opened, the flash of light may help you ascend. So, and this is the framework of within the construct of not knowing. So this is being willing to release the old, the familiar, because sometimes it's just not good for us. But we have to jump from that into the unknown. And that goes absolutely against all of our conditioning, all of our street wisdom that tells you don't leave one job until the next job is lined up, right? Don't leave your relationship or marriage. Don't move out until you know where you're moving to, until you got your money lined up, right? All the practical things. And don't throw out the old shoes until you buy a new pair, all this stuff. And what they're saying here is that in this case, that will not serve us. That we cannot create the new realities coming from inside of us. We cannot create it from the position we are in right now. Because if we do, we're creating from our past. We're creating from forms and structures we've been living in all this time, and that's just going to generate more of the same. We have to break out open, let it go, and move into the space of, I don't know, into what's it going to be? I have no idea, into the unknown. And from that space, in that space, we are who we are now, only right now, which is our most evolved self. We're the best self we can possibly be in the now moment. But if we go into that where we haven't let go, we're bringing in our 2-year-old self, our 10-year-old self, our high school self. We're bringing all our baggage. So we have to let go of all those constructs, go into the truly creating from the moment, just as we are with right now, without those old constructs, without trying to recreate from what was. And we literally have to just sit in the peace of the unknown and let it bubble up. Like literally let it bubble up from the depths of your subconscious, like out of nowhere. That's where the new reality is going to come from. It's from the depth of infinite potential, which is the realm of the mother of creation. And that is a whole nother message, which I love. That is her whole thing, is like infinite potential and creation. And that's the mother of creation. And she is coming through, by the way, in all of these messages with the angels. So within the construct of not knowing, new things become possible. And within that framework of being opened, the flash of light may help you ascend. So we need to get to that space of infinite potential. And then the flash of light comes in, gives us the big energy boost, and off we go to the races. Next paragraph. And I highlighted this one with big pink highlighter and exclamation points. It says, within the shape of a world that is closed to itself, light cannot permeate. I loved that. Within the shape of a world that is closed to itself, light cannot permeate. And the angels have been telling us forever that the only thing that will prevent the light from coming to a person is if they are clinging to the old. And think of what that looks like. If the light is coming this way and they're like, yes, let the light in. But they're like, wait a minute, but I also want to keep this old thing. They're turning their back on light and reaching back to something that was in the past. That is closed to the light, right? That's not letting as much light in. So yeah, within the shape of a world, if the whole world is closed, is focused and drawn in, the light can't penetrate. There must be a crack. There must be a ripple within which new things can become. And ripple, think about that word. Everything is a wave. And if things are so tight, how much movement do we have? How much wiggle room is there for a wave of light to come in if everything is dense and solid? So there has to be a crack and a ripple, right? And there must be a ripple. There has to be something to carry the wave of light that comes through, within which new things can become. There must be a separating to allow division to take place. So love it. Something has to kind of wedge it apart. Therefore, have in your hearts the understanding that what is forthcoming within the earth, her crust, within her own individuation, that you shall benefit in
the form of your own perspective. So this is how it's helping us. And they've been telling us this. This is about our perspective. This is a perspective shift. Even this shift in consciousness is a perspective shift. All of it is a perspective shift. But perspective, don't think that as a small thing. It is a huge thing. It is the way we see creates our reality. So it is a shift in our perspective. It is lifting us up closer and closer to that higher state of being, that higher octave of ourselves. How you may shift into the unknown with more readiness, how you may let go of what has been. All right. So next paragraph, very interesting one. Here they're talking about, they say, the forms of solace have held you blankly, subsuming your soul within constructs of belonging into a world that does not elevate, but retracts the state of beingness to which you are aspiring. So the forms of solace, think about that. What kind of forms of solace do we have in our lives right now? And solace would be comfort, numbing. So think about all the ways we numb ourselves. And these could be external ways that we numb ourselves. Sure, it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be shopping, it could be, but it can also be denying our emotions. It could be repressing our feelings, right? Numbing ourselves, escapism, right? Jumping out of the body rather than feeling things. So forms of solace, any way that we have been dumbing down our experience of life and what we are as a being. The forms of solace have held you blankly, right? Like literally, like your mind is a blank, your field is a blank, right? You've numbed the experience, subsuming your soul within constructs of belonging into a world that does not elevate, right? But retracts the state of beingness to which you are aspiring. So that is the old way. That is 3D density. That is it is numb the self. It is pulling you down, right, into these old states of being. Retracting, right? Attracting away from the growth. As these constructs quake and unfold, new openings are generated and the tissues of the earth break apart to reveal something never seen before. So this earth rift is going to really help us to break through some of that, which would be amazing. Then they say, your world shall be rocked metaphysically, which means like in our understanding of reality, as well as contextually. So in other words, in terms of actual like physical things are going to, like the stuff around us. So both will be rocked. They say, in the greatness of the tides of discovery that are coming. And you shall find yourselves rippling within the frameworks that are unfolding one after another as old ways of perceiving drop away. So this to me is it's exciting to think about that. It sounds literally like we're carried on a wave. Like all we have to do is be open to it and we will be carried on a wave, and it'll be like an unfolding, like one after another of like realizations and like it's almost like once you let in a little bit, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so like realizations is what I feel. So very, very exciting. And probably things that are breaking through old paradigms. Like imagine, breaking through some of how like conversations around places like Atlantis and things like that, our extraterrestrials, stuff like that. All the things that we have been closed to are increasingly coming to the forefront. There could be major breakthroughs in some of these areas. That again, another wave where it's just like one after another was opening. It'd be so exciting. Yeah, I can't wait. So they go on to say, your own world shall be expansive as these constructs of riddles and rhymes that have locked you into old constructions become petrified, broken, damaged. So that would be old riddles and rhymes. That would be like your old like thought patterns and belief patterns, like riddles and rhymes. Like, why does this always happen to me? Those things, like all the rhymes, like getting along with like your history, your ancestry, like the stuff that has been locked into your DNA, that kind of stuff, that it becomes petrified, broken, damaged. These all old constructs that cannot survive as the energy frequency rises, that aren't compatible, that you start to break free from. Your own thought processes become questionable. So big emphasis on, it's all about perspective. This whole thing is perspective. So your thoughts are a big deal. And your thoughts become questionable. You come into greater context of self-acknowledgement, wherein you see what has been habitual thinking, what has tied you into limitation, and these then start the process of opening. So they're really very clearly describing what this is going to feel like for us. So it's happening out in the world, right, with these waves of change, and it's going to happen inside of us, which is just so exciting. All right, last paragraph. They say, "We say that the bridge is begun. The soul that you are has come to this moment wherein all can be shaken free. And we ask for you to be at rest, at peace, with what shall be a period of uncertainty, to embrace the unknown, to ask the soul, how may you reach further into what is becoming? How might you question what has been? Where are the lengths of your own aptitude to believe in what is your new future?" We say blessings, thank you, and goodbye. So I think, again, powerful, powerful ending. And it's really that lean into your belief of the new future, which is a belief in yourself. That believe that you are worthy, believe you're capable, believe it's possible, right? As they say it, what are the, where is it? What are the lengths of your aptitude to believe in your new future? How capable are you to believe in yourself? And can you stretch that? Can you stretch it a little further every day, right? Just awesome. Awesome mess. I was so excited when I read it this morning. I was texting Wendy, the message is awesome. Yeah, I just loved it. Loved it. So amazing. But yeah, and so hopeful. I know they're talking about, this is like, I know earthquakes are not good, like in terms of the effect they have on communities and people. And I know these they're dangerous, and I'm very aware of that. And I am not focusing on that in this message, because that is a truth, but also it is true that those experiences will open the entire earth and will have, I would say, they do way more good in this case than harm. The long-term good for humanity and for the earth is exponential. And so that is what I'm focusing on. That is what's so hopeful about this message. And I love that they're breaking it down for us so clearly to help us understand what's going to happen, and giving us sort of really a status check on, this is where the earth is in her process. This is where you guys are, and this is what's going to change, right? So cool, you guys. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for sharing these messages with me and with the angels. I feel like as we all embody these messages, these frequencies, these energies, they come in deeper. I feel like I'm able to embody them more deeply. And so I'm super, super grateful for you being here. So thank you guys so much. Have a fabulous weekend, and I will see you next Friday live. Bye, guys. See you later.